Access Minnesota. Issues that matter to you. Access Minnesota brings you the newsmakers and the stories that shape our everyday lives, with analysis from University of Minnesota faculty experts. Now, here's Jim Dubois.
Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard. Apple's Steve Jobs quit Reed College. And of the 4 founders of Twitter, none graduated from college. Even the Silicon Valley tech stars with higher ed degrees are questioning the value of a college education. PayPal founder Peter Thiel has a bachelor's and a law degree from Stanford University. But in a twist of irony, he's currently offering $100,000 scholarships for students who quit college. In the entrepreneurial world of the tech industry, innovation and higher education are sometimes seen as incompatible. This month on Access Minnesota, we hear from 3 University of Minnesota professors involved in a cross-disciplinary program at the U called Minnesota Innovation Corps, or MinCorps. The program, along with a class for both undergrad and graduate students called Startup, seeks to bridge this gap between the entrepreneurs and the traditional university. We'll hear more about the Startup class and how MinCorps is already inspiring students to create new inventions at the U. John Stavig is the professional director for the Gary S. Holmes Center for Entrepreneurship in the Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. John, welcome to Access Minnesota.
Glad to be here.
Let's talk about the Startup class. It's part of a larger university project called Minnesota Innovation Corps, or MinCorps. Tell us more about the program and how it helps to foster the development of commercial technologies.
Sure. The Startup class is an experiential class for students across the whole university campus at any level. So we've got undergrads through PhD students that bring either an idea or a technology into the class. And it's a process that we take them through by which we force them out of the building to go out and talk with customers, test the big assumptions they have with their business idea, learn from the customer feedback, and hopefully develop their idea.
How radical of a departure is the Startup course from the more traditional classes here at the university?
There really are no lectures in the class. We've flipped the classroom, used a lot of the available materials that the students can watch prior to coming into the classroom. So the entire time that we're together with the students is really applying that learning directly to the idea or the technology that they're working on.
How closely will the students get to work with business leaders in the Twin Cities and throughout Minnesota?
A very valuable aspect of the program is pairing each of the student teams with a mentor. So we bring in our entrepreneurs and residents from the Holmes Center for Entrepreneurship. These are experienced entrepreneurs who've started and built usually multiple businesses that have industry experience, such as healthcare. We bring in like Linda Hall Keller, who teaches in our program, had built Minute Clinic, or we've got a number of other technology entrepreneurs or other software entrepreneurs that work with the student teams and help to give them advice and direction and really leverage their contacts in the business community.
Do you have any inklings as to what kind of products students might develop in the class?
We've had a broad range, and it can be low technology or no technology, all the way up to, we've had wearable devices. We had a PhD student who had invented his own hydraulic pump was in the class just this semester and presented a couple of evenings ago. So it's a full range of students. We're really positioning this and to help our target market are the STEM-related areas, the graduate and PhD students who have technologies that really haven't been through kind of the business-oriented classes that force them to go out, how to talk with customers, how to get feedback, how to listen to them, how to observe them, and really develop some insights that can help them develop a better product and have a better sense of where the market's going.
The class will allow students to seek out potential customers and test the marketability of the products they develop. Tell us about that process of testing and what will happen in the class to help students know whether or not they have a viable concept.
We actually track the number of customers and have a software system in place where we have a scorecard based on the number of customers that each of the teams has spoken to each week and then throughout the whole semester. So it really is a numbers game. Obviously, you've got to talk to the right people, but the more they get out and bounce their ideas off the customers, go out and observe, and also develop a prototype. And one of the things that we do in this class is provide funding of up to $3,000 to each of the team to develop a simple kind of low fidelity prototype that they can get feedback from the customers and observe them interacting with.
John, the university is a big bureaucracy, and you have several different departments coming together here to create this program. How difficult was it to get this done?
Well, fortunately, I think we've got some great leadership, and there are a lot of pockets of entrepreneurial activity throughout the university. So being led, in our case, within the Carlson School of Management, but also great support from the College of Science and Engineering, and then working with the Technology Commercialization Office. So a lot of my efforts over the last couple of years have really been building the groundwork for MinCore to go across campus. We've had a number of experiential classes within the Carlson School, largely for the benefit of the business school students, but the real opportunity is much more on the East Bank, where the science and technology areas are, and we've had a great partnership with the deans in that area and also working with the technology commercialization. So we're optimistic that the bigger ideas are really coming through these type of classes will have a much bigger impact.
We know that the trend in business is toward collaborative teams whose members come from a variety of different disciplines. There's a lot of concern now about liberal arts degrees and the marketability of them. Do you see with a program like this bringing together students from various disciplines, for example, on the technological side, on the business side, perhaps on the liberal arts side with creativity design? Is this part of the program's plan to be a cross-disciplinary effort?
Absolutely. This is really pulling together. You mentioned the College of Design. We're launching a class in partnership with them next fall on entrepreneurship and innovation for design students. We're launching one this spring, so just in another month, for the College of Design and musical students. So there's really interest in this across campus. It's a very applicable concept for students across the whole university. And as you say, getting these diverse groups together, a lot of what we do in this class is less about financially analyzing a business. It's much more about going and understanding human behavior and how individual customers react in certain situations, or how they might use a prototype. And that observation and some of the business anthropology classes that we've helped to develop and some of the design areas are extremely relevant for this. And that's really where the differentiation comes. If great scientists and inventors can develop those type of skills, they've got tremendous capability.
John Stavig is the professional director for the Gary S. Holmes Center for Entrepreneurship at the Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. John, thanks for joining us on Access Minnesota.
My pleasure.
When Access Minnesota returns, we'll hear how MinCore is increasing the number of patents for new inventions being filed at the University of Minnesota.
You're watching Access Minnesota. Here's Jim Dubois.
Jay Schrankler has served as the executive director of the University of Minnesota's Office for Technology Commercialization since 2007. His office oversees the protection of university inventions and helps determine the best path to commercialization. Here's more on the patent process at the U of M. Jay Schrankler is the executive director for the Office of Technology Commercialization at the University of Minnesota. Jay, welcome to Access Minnesota.
Well, thank you, Jim. I'm glad to be here.
Let's talk about MinCore, or Minnesota Innovation Corps. What's that all about, and how does it fit into the goal of the university to integrate various departments to help students come up with innovative ideas that will benefit the business community?
Yes, MinCore is actually a true interdisciplinary entity. And so we have the College of Science and Engineering, we have the research organization, which my group is part of, and we have the Carlson School of Management, where the Holmes Center for Entrepreneurship is. So we have three different entities in the university that came together for this. And we came together for the purpose of applying for a National Science Foundation grant called I-Corps. And it's, the model has been, for MinCore, has been developed off of what the I-Corps proposal looks like to the NSF. And the whole idea is to have one place where our students, graduate students, our undergraduate students, and our faculty can go to get trained in how to take one of their inventions to market.
I have some statistics here that are interesting. This past year, the U saw 331 inventions disclosed, 148 patent filings, and 14 startup companies launched. What do these numbers say to you about the direction science and technology fields are headed within the university?
I think it's incredible, the direction that this is headed. In 2007, we started the transformation of the Office for Technology Commercialization. In that year, there were 193 invention disclosures. So they've been monotonically increasing up to 331 last year. We had 2 startup companies in 2007. Last year we had 14. We now rival MIT and Stanford in the number of startups that are coming out of the university. And we've done a lot to get there. And one of the key things is getting our faculty and our students exposed to entrepreneurism and the idea of commercializing their inventions. And so 4 or 5 times a year, we offer seminars for our students and our faculty that are our startup workshops. And those startup workshops we've been doing for about 5 years now, as I mentioned, and our plan is to roll those startup workshops under the curriculum of the MNCOR entity.
Jay, tell us a bit about the patent disclosure process.
When a student or one of our faculty has an idea for a new invention, the first step in protecting that invention or protecting the intellectual property is to file an invention disclosure here at the university where they describe their invention. And that's the first step in patenting. And from there, we take these inventions and we decide which of those disclosures warrant patenting. And then once we patent them, we take them further to commercialization.
Historically, there's been a bit of a tension between the academic world and the for-profit world. Do you see any potential downsides to focusing on commercializing products? Is there a danger that focusing on money and corporate interests would take anything away from the important building blocks of education?
I'll answer that question in 2 parts. First of all, in order for a product or a technology to benefit society, it needs to be commercialized for the public good. And so commercialization is just a natural process of taking a new idea or a new invention and having it benefit the public good. And as a part of that, we have to make sure that that process is well managed. And so our university has a very robust and very well managed conflict of interest program. So we're constantly reviewing the process that we're using and the involvement of the people. So we have a really nice balance, a check and balance, where we're working on commercializing the technology and then ensuring that we're doing it in an ethical and conflict-free and managed way.
Jay, tell us a bit about some of the projects that students are coming up with that are part of this program.
So I'll talk about the science and technology products, the ideas that are coming out. About almost 90% of the research done at the university from federally funded sources is in the science and technology area. About 2/3 is life sciences, and the other third of that would be the physical sciences. So we're, as you can imagine, we're a huge land-grant university. So we have inventions that range from agricultural products like apples, like the Honey Crisp and the Sweet Tango apple, all the way to inventions that would save human lives in the area of organ regeneration, in robotics, new medicines, new pharmaceuticals. It really is a soup to nuts set of inventions that are coming out of the university and its students.
Jay Schrankler is the Executive Director of the Office for Technology Commercialization at the University of Minnesota. Jay, thanks so much for joining us on Access Minnesota.
And thank you, Jim.
How closely can a university class resemble the entrepreneurial spirit of Silicon Valley? When Access Minnesota returns, Kirk Froggatt, who holds the Gemini Chair in Technology Management, discusses the similarities and differences between MNCOR and Silicon Valley.
Access Minnesota will return after these messages. You're watching Access Minnesota. Here's Jim Dubois.
Back to our conversation on how entrepreneurial innovation can be better integrated into the university system. Here's Kirk Froggatt of the U of M's Technological Leadership Institute. Kirk Froggatt is a senior fellow and holds the Gemini Chair in Technology Management at the Technological Leadership Institute at the University of Minnesota. Kirk, welcome to Access Minnesota.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
With so much attention these days on tech companies and startup situations, do you think students here at the university are expecting perhaps a different kind of education than they may have been accustomed to getting in the past?
You know, I do, and I don't think it's just because of the emphasis that we're seeing or the visibility that we have to a lot of tech startups and the importance of startup businesses for the economy, but the millennial generation is exposed to so much more so early. From high school on, they have the world as their oyster, they have exposure to all sorts of possibilities, and they come in expecting to be able to experience a lot of different things. But what's really interesting to me, so we have the students coming in expecting a different education, both in terms of content and process. They want more interaction, they want more hands-on learning, they want the ability to actually make things, do things, not just learn things. And that's part of what their expectation is. At the same time, we have employers looking for students who are not just technical experts, but who are capable of really translating their technical ideas into customer solutions that generate economic value. So how do we bridge those? With efforts like MinCore that helps broaden the technical expertise and helps people see the commercial application of their ideas.
And Kirk, tell us a bit about how so many different units came together to create the MinCore program.
Well, you know, a lot of it was driven by the fact that we've had some real strong programs for a number of years in the Home Center in Carlson, the Home Center for Entrepreneurship. But within the College of Science and Engineering, we have a very full curriculum for our science and engineering students. So we decided that we really needed to help the employers, and I spent 25 years in Silicon Valley myself. We knew that we needed scientists and engineers who had more business acumen, more teamwork and collaboration skills, more understanding of customers and commercialization processes. So we started talking amongst the three of us, the Office for Technology Commercialization, the Home Center, et cetera, and realized that if we combined efforts, we could do so much more for our students. Because the scientists and engineers don't need a huge amount of incremental coursework, but they need just enough to help them broaden their perspective, their mindset, their tool set, and their skill set just a bit. So we just committed that this was a neat opportunity for our students and for employers who are hiring from the University of Minnesota.
Most of us have heard the stories of wealthy tech entrepreneurs who either dropped out of college or skipped higher education altogether in favor of starting their own company. Even the founder of PayPal has proposed, I guess somewhat ironically, that there be a scholarship set aside for students who want to drop out of college. Is MinCore a reaction to some of these notions that you don't necessarily need a college degree anymore to succeed in technology?
You know, it's a good question because I think the reality is you don't have to have a formal education for everything anymore. But I think what we're realizing is that formal education is still hugely beneficial. And yet we need to have a little bit more of a cross-disciplinary or even transdisciplinary education. The world is so dynamic. There's so many factors that can make or break success today. And in industries, complex industries like medical devices, et cetera, there's so many pieces of the ecosystem that can impact your success. So that's why we're really focusing on this cross-college collaborative effort to give our students exposure to the whole process from idea to ultimate impact and hopefully invoices at the end of the day.
What role do you see MinCore playing at the university in the years ahead?
You know, I think what we're really excited about is that it's an opportunity not just for new venture entrepreneurs, but also for intrapreneurs. If you're working for 3M or Medtronic or Target, any of the big employers, you're having to continuously reinvent your business model and your next new idea. And so we're hoping to have more of our STEM students from across the university have access to a wide variety of programs and courses that will help them broaden and become far more ready for the trials and tribulations of the job market ahead.
And finally, what are you looking most forward to teaching the startup classes coming up this spring semester?
I think what personally I'm most excited about is we have a really nice cadre of science and engineering students taking the course. And they have some really important and big ideas, but haven't had a chance to think at all about the application of those ideas yet. And it really is exciting to see them get out, talk to customers, figure out how they might be able to apply those ideas, and then figure out what the next step is. And it's a challenging process, but very, very exciting to see both the potential of the idea and the growth of the students.
Kirk, tell us about the background that you have and the program you are in and how those will fit in with the MinCore program and the startup class here at the university.
Yeah, you know, I've spent 20 years in Silicon Valley and then 5 years here in Minnesota working in global high-tech companies. And my role has been rather unique, always working with scientists and engineers, but my job has been to develop them as business leaders. So how do we grow engineers and scientists who can ultimately grow profitable businesses? So sort of the business and innovation process side of the equation. And here at the College of Science and Engineering, it's my job to bring those fundamentals to our technical students in science and engineering disciplines so that they understand just a little bit more about translating their technical ideas into those customer solutions and ultimately generating economic value. With programs like Startup, we give them a chance to really go get hands-on, and that's what I think is exciting. It's not just knowing it by reading about it, it's actually taking an idea that they have passion about and getting out and learning by doing. And I think we all know from our adult learning that about 70% of what we learn occurs by doing, so they really deeply internalize. And as an employer, we're much better off to hire those kids who had a chance to not just know the technical side, but to really live with having to take that idea out and see if they can make a go of it on the commercial side as well.
Kirk, after having spent 25 some years in Silicon Valley, tell us about the atmosphere there and how it compares to the atmosphere of technological innovation here at the University of Minnesota.
You know, there are a lot of similarities. I would say that probably there is a bit more of a robust and vibrant ecosystem for true startup enterprises in the technology side. Here we have a very nice ecosystem, but not quite as vibrant in the true technology sector. And so what I think is exciting here is many of the same principles, the same ideas apply equally well for big companies, entrepreneurship. And that's an opportunity that we have to really differentiate. We have such an incredible set of Fortune 500 companies here, all of whom can really benefit from this. And we have a very nice growing entrepreneurship community as well. So I think we're well positioned once we start to leverage the assets and collaborate more across our organizations, we'll be able to really make a difference for everybody.
Kirk Froggatt is a senior fellow and holds the Gemini Chair in Technology Management at the Technological Leadership Institute at the University of Minnesota. Kirk, thanks so much for joining us on Access Minnesota.
Thank you. Great to be here.
That's all for this month's edition of Access Minnesota. We'll see you again next month. Thanks for watching.
Access Minnesota. Issues that matter to you. Join us again next week as we bring you the newsmakers and stories that shape our everyday lives. Access Minnesota is produced by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association in cooperation with the University of Minnesota's College of Liberal Arts.